Hi, I'm Terrell Chapel with City Planet Farms in New York, New York. I'm an upstart farmer, and you're listening to Upstart Farmers Radio.
Welcome back to Upstart Farmers Radio. Spring is right around the corner, so you guys know what that means?
Seed catalogs.
Seed catalogs.
Awesome. We just got a bunch of seed catalogs in the office today, and farmers love seed catalogs. They're a lot of fun. So we thought today that we'd talk about what Upstart farmers are growing and their favorite plant varieties. So we're here today with Noah, the greenhouse manager here at Bright Agrotech.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us, Noah.
Oh, thank you.
And we've got Dr. Nate Story as well.
You bet.
Awesome. And I'm Perry Baptista. So Noah, tell us a little bit about what's growing in our greenhouse.
We actually have a good variety of stuff right now. It's all pretty young, but we've got lettuce and kohlrabi, chard, all the greens, kale, collards. I said kohlrabi. Growing a little bit of cabbage, some bok choy, there's cilantro, peppers, barley, all the herbs you can think of. So just a lot of different things.
You're a little obsessed with peppers.
I am.
I have to throw that
I
out
am.
now because I think this conversation today might be dominated by peppers
It might.
to an unhealthy extent.
Well,
So,
it might.
So then, do I even have to ask what your favorite thing is to grow in the towers, Noah?
Well, I mean, I did put peppers down very, very first and foremost, but it's kind of a toss-up. I mean, I really enjoyed growing snap peas last year in towers. They were a lot of fun, building different types of trellises and such. So, I don't know, peppers definitely. I think that they're probably my favorite crop just in all. So, it's kind of fun to grow the smaller varieties like Tabascos and kind of the Chinese varieties of peppers.
yeah, those ones hold up really well too. Some of those shorter, statured peppers, just bushy peppers, grow really well in towers. We've gotten good results. I think my favorite is strawberries. I always have to come back to strawberries. I mean, they just are beautiful plants. You know, they need pollination. They're kind of finicky, but they're a high maintenance crop. But man, they're really enjoyable.
So both of those are actually a little bit different than what we usually hear upstart farmers growing in the towers. There's a lot of focus on greens and herbs. So what considerations do farmers need to think about before growing these fruiting types of crops in the towers?
You know, kind of the first thing is how you're going to support it. And like Nate said, the smaller statured plants obviously do better. I mean, that's why we try to put in, if it's a dwarf variety or just a smaller variety, try to put that in the tower rather than, a big Brandywine tomato or something like that. But it's just about, a lot of peppers will support themselves. But, if you want to do tomatoes or something, you could just have to think about how you're going to trellis them up and control the growth.
There's some pollination things there too. I mean, with strawberries, with peppers, with tomatoes, with the crops that need pollination, you need to provide that somehow, and it gets pretty exhausting going out there with a paintbrush or an electric toothbrush and pollinating each flower by hand. So, I mean, during the summer, if you open up your greenhouse, you can get pollinators that come in and take care of it.
That's why we need to get some bees.
Yeah, we'll see.
One day.
What other varieties of plants do you like to grow in grow towers? And I'm thinking of specific plant varieties like the Amish deer tongue lettuce that we did this summer.
We really like that Amish deer tongue. There's a variety of lettuce called Green Forest, which is pretty awesome. Any kind of curly-leafed kale. There's lots of different varieties of curly leaf. They're usually kind of smaller statured plants too. What else, Nate?
All of the kind of cole crops
Yeah.
are really nice because you plant them once and you just keep cutting and coming back to them. So they're pretty low maintenance. They're pretty easy to deal with, and they're pretty productive. I think, over the years we've developed a few varieties that we really like. And on that note, I'm going to take credit for the Amish deer tongue because
I'll give you that one.
I think I ordered the first seed packet of
I'll
Amish
give
deer
you that
tongue,
one.
so I'm claiming it.
You can have it. That Florence fennel really turned out nicely this year
Yeah, that stuff
too.
grows great.
And you get a lot of harvests off of that. So that's another pretty awesome crop to grow.
So where do you like to get your seeds from, Noah?
Baker Creek, seed company. There's a couple other places, but quite honestly, we just keep going back to them more and more. They're good people and good seed. They've got a lot of variety, which is a lot of fun. So
In the past, we've ordered from Johnny's, we've ordered from Harris, and Harris actually has some good seed. But anymore, we mostly just order from Baker Creek because they've got lots of crazy fun stuff. And, you know, farming isn't always the most interesting occupation. And so every now and then you got to get wild and plant something you've never planted before. So, you know, getting wild, ordering from Baker Creek.
So what's the worst thing you've ever grown in towers and why?
carrots for me, any type of root crop. We've tried everything, but
we've gotten some decent carrots.
yeah,
I mean,
they're just all weird looking.
They're ugly as sin, but they grow.
And they're delicious.
Spinach has always been tough for me. I've never gotten spinach to do well. I've never done great with spinach anywhere. I just think we're not friends.
Yeah.
Spinach is my enemy.
I know Paul struggles with arugula. I've never tried to grow it, but
Arugula is it likes such cool temperatures and it likes conditions that are hard to provide, especially if you're trying to grow a lot of other crops around it. So it's kind of like, one of those crops that you grow off by itself, maybe with a few other crops that kind of like those conditions, but it's really hard. Then I just think it tastes awful. So that's just
Nate and I disagree on this. I think arugula is delicious. But on the spinach, I was talking recently with Upstart farmers in Canada, Smart Greens, and they're operating in a freight farm, and they also had trouble with spinach. They managed to get a decent first harvest, but after that, it just didn't work real well for them. It was difficult to get a second harvest, and the plants just didn't grow very well.
Yeah, I've never, honestly, I've never done great with spinach in any hydro system. And I think for whatever reason, and this is really unusual because you can grow cacti, you can grow all sorts of succulents, desert plants in hydro systems, and they'll usually grow really well because it's really aerobic. But with spinach, for some reason, I've just never gotten good production out of spinach. I just don't think it likes being in that moist of an environment. I'm sure you could figure out a way to grow it if you just wanted to pamper it and completely change your system settings and configurations to make it happy. But, that's not how we roll. So if it won't grow easy, we don't grow it.
Probably some good advice for those who are just starting a farm too. Are you guys experimenting with anything that's new or fun out of the greenhouse these days?
yeah, we're always trying to do something new. We actually, our new worker out there started some artichoke. He said he's going to try some artichoke in the tower.
Oh, good night.
I told him good luck, but we'll see. We'll let him make his own mistakes.
That needs to go in the other greenhouse. Otherwise, it's going to be a mess.
Yeah, I think we're just going to put it in the ground. But we're getting some dwarf varieties of eggplant that have real small fruit that probably grow similar to peppers. So we're going to try some of those. We're going to try some cool varieties of melon that Baker Creek has, some cool varieties of watermelon, some different types of beans, like runner beans and bush beans, and then we're going to actually do some cut flowers that are kind of double for pest management. So we've grown marigolds in this system, and I'm sure that all other flowers would grow great, but we just wanted to get a little bit of variety, so that's what we're going to do this summer.
My mom did mums in her spring last year, and they were amazing. Just beautiful. So I'm actually mostly excited about the green wall this summer and being able to try out some of these on the green wall, because no one ever believes us when we talk about growing melons in towers. No one ever believes that we've grown melons in towers. And so I think we need to put a whole bunch of watermelon or something on the green wall and just hang those melons up in onion bags or something.
I got the perfect varieties too, so I think it should be
awesome.
A good summer for melons.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun year for new crops, I think.
Awesome. Those melons will be exciting to see on the green wall.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Hayden from Bayberry Fresh. The three main crops I grow in Zip Grow Towers are basil, mint, and parsley.
I'm Terrell Chapel with City Planet Farms, and my favorite crop is Asian greens, the tatsoi, and the latest favorite is the celery. We've been growing celery with good success for Bloody Marys at the restaurant in Sag Harbor.
So Nate, when you were designing the Zip Grow Tower, did you have any specific crops in mind?
Well, I started basically with research on greens. So basil, specifically basil, herbs, and greens. So the towers initially were mostly designed for those, although I will say, well, concurrently while I was running a lot of those experiments, in the exact same greenhouse I was testing watermelon, and I was growing a lot of strawberries, and just kind of fooling around with a lot of other crops as well. So even though I designed it mostly for greens and mostly for herbs, and that's still really what we recommend, the reality is just kind of being able to grow that other stuff while I was working on the towers, you know, it informed the design a little bit, and it taught me about how these other crops grew in them as well, and how we could potentially make them a little bit more friendly to some of these other crops.
So was there ever a crop that you tested as you were in this experimental stage that did better in the towers than you expected it to?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I had pretty low hopes from the beginning. So kind of once I'd worked out some of the final designs and everything was doing so well, I was kind of pleasantly surprised. I will say that right off the bat, one of the tests I did was on oregano, on Mexican oregano. And if you're not familiar with Mexican oregano, it's not kind of like the European varieties so much. It's fuzzier and shorter, statured. It's kind of a ground training plant. And I drowned a lot of those seedlings right off the bat just because it's a slow grower. So I started all the seeds together. It was really experimental error on my part. You know, I started everything together. And of course, the basil grew quickly, and the lettuce grew quickly, and whatever else I was testing, you know, cilantro grew quickly. And my poor little oregano seedlings were just languishing there because it went from seed. And Noah's got a big old grin on his face because he thinks that Nate Story is pretty stupid to try oregano from seed, but
No, I just know how long it takes.
I didn't know any better, okay? So so I had these sad little bitty oregano seedlings. I popped those in towers and promptly drowned them. And a lot of it was, you know, at the time I was still trying to figure out how to grow with them. So as part of that process, yes, I killed some oregano seedlings back in the day. But I later redeemed myself and figured out how to work more with cuttings. And now we grow Mexican oregano in our greenhouse, and it's a great producer.
Mm-hmm.
So what was your favorite thing to grow?
Yeah, I mean, strawberries were great. Melons were great. I kind of enjoyed some of those crops that were a little bit more fun back in the day. I mean, things like trying carrots. I mean, yes, they come out, you know, ugly, 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 but man, they're fun to play with, and it's fun to watch new things grow in these towers. I mean, this last year when Sam did a whole bunch of tomatoes on the green wall, and at first I was just like, dude, come on, you know. But he planted all these tomatoes, and they just went bonkers.
Well, I told him that they would work, because I had done them before.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'd done them before, but I was expecting a big mess, you know. And they ended up just going crazy and actually survived, 6 weeks past everyone else's?
Yeah.
Everyone else's tomatoes froze to death, and we had tomatoes, 6 weeks past everyone else because that wall and the sidewalk just heated everything up. But, I mean, it's learning stuff like that that's just so interesting and so much fun. So I'm not sure if I've got a favorite crop to grow, but, man, I sure enjoy seeing new things get planted in towers and seeing how they work, and these cool applications and how different crops work in them.
So do you guys have any tips for upstart farmers who are experimenting with new crops?
Yeah. I mean,
Be patient.
Be patient. Expect to kill a lot of seedlings.
Yeah.
Buy extra seed.
Yeah.
Plant extra plugs. And I mean, a lot of it too is just kind of knowing what you're planting and making sure that you're not doing anything too crazy. And knowing whether it's something you can plant kind of deep or knowing whether it's something that needs to stay a little drier. Knowing whether you need to maybe choke back your flows. Or give it a little bit more water. It's watercress. Like you can just dump the water into those towers excessively, even. Mm-hmm. And even if if you're dumping 20 gallons of water into the tower, which is way more than we'd ever recommend, and it's running out the front of the tower and it's making a big mess, that watercress is happy. But there are other crops, that just they like it drier, so it's better to choke it back, use a wicking strip, and go slow.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much, if you just look at how they're traditionally grown in the soil, their needs are basically the same. You just have to convert it to aquaponics.
Use your noggin.
Mm-hmm.
So every farmer has a slightly different growing experience that fuels their favorite plants. It sounds like Nate and Noah here have tried about everything and had a blast doing it. So thanks for joining us today, Noah.
Oh, thank you.
This has been Upstart Farmers Radio, episode number 4, Upstart Farmers' Favorite Plants. Thanks for joining us today. For more information on this episode, visit radio.upstartfarmers.com.